Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, Out of the Box. A very hot topic that has prevailed during these days all over the world that is witnessing unprecedented turmoil, especially after the war took place in Europe. We're seeing a lot of civil strife, a lot of public unrest, a lot of protests, and a lot of strikes, changes of government, etc., etc. The common denominator in all of these events are the crowds, the mob. Our main hero today, the star of this episode, is Gustave Le Bon. Gustave Le Bon was a French physician. He studied medical science in the beginning of his time, but he lived in the 19th century. And this century was also a century of a lot of turmoil. We've seen a lot of things that took place in countries like France, Belgium, etc., etc. A lot of changes happened during that time. The common denominator at that time as well were the crowds, the public. Gustave Le Bon is very, very special for his study of psychology and anthropology, especially with regards to the public mind and the mind of the crowd and the groups. Tonight, we'll be shedding more light on his thoughts and saying, what effect does this have on the current circumstances in our world today? To delve into the crypts of his ideas, I'm really delighted to be accompanied by Ahmad Barsoum, the independent and writer and thinker. Ahmad, hello and welcome to the program.
Hello, Mohammed, and thank you for having me again, as usual, to share with you and learn from you and our delighted pleasure of sharing the ideas with our viewers and your followers as well. Thank you.
The pleasure is always mine, and I'm sure our viewers enjoy having you with us each time. So I'm about to start off. The very usual question I always like to pose is Gustave Le Bon. He was born in France, and he lived during the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. To what extent do you think that his time was a motivator or a catalyst for his writings?
Well, definitely, Le Bon was much affected by the political turmoils of France after the French Revolution. As we know that since the first French Republic until the 1950s, France have been passed through 5 republics and many monarchies and empires as well. So seeing this and living all these changes within 90 years, actually, because he lived 90 years, so I would say that he started at the age of 20, and until he died, he was thinking and realizing and observing the society. So definitely he was much affected by the political life of France during these times. So I believe that anybody who lived these times, whether a philosopher, writer, a poet, would learn so much from the changes that took place during these times in political, social, and economic conditions of life in France. And mainly, of course, the conditions that were affected by the crowd. Because most of these changes in the political regimes in France were affected usually by the crowds and the masses of people. So this was his fuel to go and give us his valuable reference, the book he wrote, The Crowd.
Absolutely. And just to confirm what you just said here, like France saw a lot of spikes, really, and a lot of major changes. So from a solid monarchy, then a revolution, to be replaced by an empire. So they got rid of a king and then they had an emperor. And so for the French Revolution to really cement and put its feet firmly on the ground, it took a while, really. and a lot of public unrest and revolutions and counter-revolutions, First Republic, Second Republic, and so on and so forth. So definitely this had a major change. Now, Gustave Le Bon was one of the members of the elite or the noble society. So he wasn't just a layman, or he wasn't from, you'd say, like grassroots or like worker or peasant. So to what extent do you think his social class affected his point of view? Like in general, we can say that he didn't have a very favorable opinion about the crowds. Was this affected by his social class?
Well, we know that Le Bon was teaching in the University of Paris. And in this position, he was exposed to the mass of the students, mass of professors, mass of people around surrounding the university and servicing the university. He was in the center of the action. And if we go back in time and look at Paris in the 19th century, it was the center of everything, for art, for religion, for philosophers, poets. It was a whole pot of different ideas and philosophies. So definitely living among all this, of course, this will give him lots of insight and ability to analyze and understand the society. He was a sociologist, so that means his profession was to study the surroundings and study the human behavior and study what affects it and how they affect the life in Paris at that time. By the way, although he was in the center of all this action, he was not favored by his peers, the professors at that time, because his ideas were revolutionary compared to this era as well. So although later in the 20th century, his ideas and all his thoughts were being treated with more respect and highly appreciated as well. But during his work in the University of Paris, he was not accredited by his colleagues. But
yeah,
seeing all the life of Paris, definitely anyone would be very enlightened with the life in Paris at that time.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, this is the destiny of anyone who dares really to think out of the norm, and any unconventional thinking is usually not received with very welcoming opinions by the people.
Anyone who thinks outside the box.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what we endeavor and we try really to reach during each episode here of out of the box, is to try to, starting with ourselves, of course, and then our dear viewers, to try to really think out of the box, literally. Ahmad, let's just stop with our dear viewers to watch a short report about the most important ideas of Gustave Le Bon, and we'll be back. Gustave Le Bon was a 19th and 20th century French psychologist and anthropologist who is especially known for his book The Crowd, a study of the popular mind. His primary approach was for humans to collectively develop behaviors they would never develop individually. In other words, groups have a decisive influence on individuals. He pointed out the main reasons why individuals lose themselves within a group. First of all, man perceives the group as an invincible force. Therefore, he stops feeling responsible for his actions, because he can act as an anonymous character within the group. Second, masses infect their members with their way of feeling and behaving. This happens unconsciously and allows the leader to manipulate the individuals within the group and the group as a whole. Third, groups
hypnotize individuals, since being a member of a group makes you feel empowered. Also, in many occasions, the unreal prevails over the reality within a group. Finally, groups are survival mechanisms, since they usually offer socio-economic or spiritual support to its members in return for their absolute loyalty and obedience. Not belonging to one of these groups is considered dangerous for the independent individual, as he will be constantly exposed to bullying from these groups.
Dear viewers, after watching this short report about the most important ideas of Gustave Le Bon, we're back again with Ahmad Barsoum, who is the free writer and thinker. Ahmad, like Gustave Le Bon, stopped at several points, and he found that these are the most important things that are really evident in any group or crowd. I would like to stop with you and analyze them one by one. So we'll take it in a chronological order. So he was saying, start with that once you enter a group, you no longer have this autonomy, or you no longer have this free will, but you are mostly in the auto drive mode. You just let yourself go with the flow and with the crowd. To what extent do you agree with this, first of all? Second of all, do you see this as one of the pros or the cons of being part of a crowd?
Well, as a theory, I believe Gustave Le Bon was 100% correct. Once we enter in a group, we have to work with the group as part of it, because we entered with our own will to this group. Nobody even if we are forced by, in a way, but once we enter the group, in order to feel comfortable and feel at ease, we have to forget our self, our inner thoughts. We have to put it aside and start to listen to the crowd around us. And it's very simple. When we go to the class, when we were children, and once we step in, we go walking to the school on every day and thinking about what are we going to do in the evening after we finish the school, and the movie we are watching, and the friends we are playing with on the weekend. But once we are in the classroom, we will behave like every other student sitting on the desk. So we became part of this whole class. This class is made now with everyone as one. So I do agree with Le Bon on that part, that once we enter a group, we become part of it. And of course, I'm sure that we would discuss the other points that Le Bon mentioned, that as his pillars of his theories, we would give examples, more examples based on the chronological sequence that you mentioned. But yes, it is part of, it is a natural, I would say, phenomena. But when somebody gets into a group, joins a group, becomes part of it. As if it's also evident in the animals or the birds. Mm-hmm. They move in the flock, they move together, and they cannot separate each other because they become one of the whole flock or the herd.
And do you see this as a pro or a con? Do you see this as like one of the positive or the negative? Is it an advantage or a disadvantage being part of a group and just completely dissolving and completely assimilating?
First, it depends from one person to another based on their ability to analyze and think about the surrounding. So some people will be very vulnerable to be affected by the crowd and become part of them and completely dilute their thinking to their level of the crowd. Others will resist somehow. So I believe that the level or the extent of involving in a group or a crowd depends on someone's level of thinking and realizing. I would say it in a different words, his intelligence as well and knowledge. So because we will see later on, we'll discuss that the more intelligent and knowledgeable the person is, the less ability to be included in the crowd. Because
Yeah.
by analyzing. You could, because I cannot walk in the crowd and they are all thugs, for instance, and then I become one of the thugs because my principles, my ethics will prevent me from sharing their ideas. But that's something I believe we have to go through it later on. But
Absolutely.
definitely it
Yeah.
has pros and cons. It is not for everyone, but I would say it is for the majority.
For
the majority affected by the crowd. Yes, of course.
Now we come to this. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that is it bad or good? It is not actually, you cannot say that now because it could be good if the cause of the crowd is good. But it would be very harmful if the cause of the crowd is destruction.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, again, that's always a very, subjective matter. What is good and what is bad is always very subjective. So, which would drive us to the second point here is that Gustave Le Bon, argues that when I'm a member of a crowd, I can be anonymous, or I can be just, I can vanish really within the crowd. So I'll just try to hide myself, and this is something that we can witness sometimes in team sports. You cannot have this in individual sports. So if you're doing like high jump, long jump, pole jump, things like that, or going through a marathon, or like hurdle jump, or any of the individual sports, swimming, hammer throw, and so on. If today's your day off, it's your day off. It'll be obvious. But if I'm playing a game like soccer, for instance, I can sort of hide, somewhere, on the pitch. I can avoid any, direct contact with the opponent. So whenever I receive the ball, I just try to get rid of it as soon as I can. And at the end of the day, if my team wins the trophy, I'll win it too. I'll get equal credit, although today was my day off. So being able to be anonymous, or to hide, to vanish really within the crowd. Do you agree or disagree, first of all, that, do you think that this is a fact or not, first of all? Second of all, again, do you think that's a positive or a negative effect?
Very well. By the way, this is one of the most admirable points that Gustave Le Bon stated the theory on the crowd, the thinking of the crowd. I see this is evident every day in our daily life. Every day. The majority of people tend to be a little bit shy and timid in expressing their opinions and thoughts. And also, they do not want to be pointed out by any way, whether it's good or bad, because of the shyness. So, and that's what differentiates followers from leaders as well. Leaders can shine, they have the charisma, they don't worry about this. But the majority are not leaders, of course. Because the pyramid tells us that there is one leader and then a hierarchy of chain of command in any organization. So let's go back to the football team, because as you mentioned, and by the way, I call it football because it's the real name of it. I am not a fan of the word soccer because I am crazy about the real football that played by the foot. Yeah. But of course, it's a common mistake, better than an unknown truth. So football team, yes, players, when the team is not performing very well on one of their games, the criticism will be to the team. Oh, this team, the team X did not play well this day. The team X had no harmony in play. So he's mistaken, the team X. So everybody will take the blame. And when they win, oh, team X won the trophy. Team X is the best team in the world, and so on.
They'll all be commended and appreciated.
So we avoid any direct pointing at us achieving something good or bad. Now, I will take it more now on a more deeper and more actually ugly example, which happens all the time in our daily life. Someone who is a drug dealer, for instance, or a drug addict, they always tend to mix and go among people from the same background or same habit or doing the same thing, because they want to hide in this crowd. because they don't want to stand alone. And that's why we say in a very famous English proverb, the birds of feather flock together. But why? Because they are the same. And I would, if I see myself doing something that's wrong, I want to go and follow the people that do the same thing. I cannot be one of those doing bad things, drug addict, and sit with the people who go to the Sunday school, for instance.
Okay.
So I would go sit with those people. I will hide them. I will be covered by them as they will cover me. But the same thing is very obvious now in the fundamentalist groups as well. So if somebody has a very radical thinking, he cannot sit among the intellectual people and the progressive minds and discuss his radical ideas. He would rather go and sit aside and be in the corner of the radical, the fundamentalist group of people and hide with them. So that's why, and that also helped him to blend. Because, okay, I'm wearing a red shirt. If I go to a group of people wearing all of them black or white, I cannot blend with them. So I have to go to people who are wearing red like me and be with them.
So yeah,
the ball was very smart. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, it's your comfort zone. It's your silo. It's your incubator. Yeah.
Yes, and being good or bad, yes, it is good. I see it as a good thing because it will give me more self-confidence and also more kind of relaxing and feeling that I'm living within my comfort zone when I blend or mix with people like me and I think like them. So, and by the way, the bigger the group, the crowd is, the more confident I am that I'm always right as well, even if I'm doing something wrong. So in order to avoid, again, criticism by the outsiders, I'd rather go and sit on the bench of those people who cannot be criticized because of their outnumber the others.
Definitely, and we'll go deeper into this point at the very end, actually. But moving to the third point here, which Gustave Le Bon argues that when you're a member of the crowd, you tend to think that the crowd is invincible. The crowd consists of a group of superheroes. How do you see this point?
Well, okay, again, if we go back to the group of fundamentalists and the radical people, because the radical thinking is not accepted by the majority of the good thinkers or the progressive people or the middle people as well. So I need to go with the people that they told me earlier that their thoughts, the radical thoughts, are the best and the strongest. So I go and hide with them again. Or in other words, I believe that my eccentric idea would be much stronger with the eccentric people. So together we can be very strong and we can stand in front of any other opponent or any other opponent idea as well. So it is, yes, we feel that within our group we are strong. And by the way, also it happens on a good side as well. So it is part of the military forces. In any military force of any nation, you find out that every soldier feels that he's much stronger standing next to another one, because that's how they brainwash them, that they are taking care of each other. They are looking at the back of each other. And everybody is as important as the other one, and everybody is stronger than the other one. So together, they are invincible. And that's how it comes when you stand as a leader in front of your platoon or your army and tell them, you can win this war because you are invincible. So you talk to the mass of the crowd in front of you. All of them believe in each other, that they are the strongest warrior, the best trained. That's how they cannot be invincible. And here comes the thing that we feel it gives us more even self-confidence as well, being invincible among the group. But it could be very deceitful as well, because some people might follow an idea that is not invincible at all. I mean, it's not so powerful at all, and join this group or this crowd, and then get defeated so easily. And that's why the feel of loss is greater at that time, because they lived an illusion that they are invincible. That once this group or crowd was being defeated or lost the battle or lost even the game, they feel much more disappointed in themselves and in the group as well.
Actually, when you mention the word illusion, it's part and parcel actually of the next 2 points, because the next point he talks about is that the leader of the group tends to mesmerize and hypnotize the members of the group, and they would tend to, like, sleepwalk. They would just follow the leader to their demise and doom happily, just with a blindfold. To what extent do you agree to this, and is it always negative as it might seem, or is there a positive part of it too?
Well, first of all, 100% I do agree totally with Le Bon when he said that, yes, the individuals are hypnotized or mesmerized by the speech or by the ideas that the leader is providing. Also, it depends on how eloquent the leader is as well. Some leaders will be followed blindly because of the way that they put enthusiasm in the people and encourage them to join the idea or the cause that this leader or this group is standing for. So also depends also the character and personality of this leader. And it is actually an equation of knowledge. So if this leader has more knowledge, than the crowd, definitely they will follow him blindly because they see him as the professor or the master. And this is obvious actually in religious groups, because people, when they listen in any religion or any cult or any group of followers or people following a certain religion, when they listen to the speech given by the person, the leader, the religious leader, or the religious figure, they all listen, first of all, with respect. They always have in their mind that this person is more knowledgeable, and also that it is part of their duty towards him is to obey and listen and respect because of this environment of the religious and this holy thing around them. So leader would hypnotize his followers by the words he's choosing, by the ideas he's imposing on them, and also by using the weaker minds in front of him. And again, we will take the same example of someone who is a little bit of knowledge or intellectual, or maybe he's an argumentative person or inquisitive person, walks inside assembly of religious gathering. Everybody is so deep indulged in the hymns or the rituals, and this person is stand like this and he's looking around him surprised. Excuse me. So the reaction of the leader will be, get out of here. Not directly, could be indirectly. And I have seen this happening in front of me. One of the things. It actually, I will give you 2 examples. One happened to me, the other one I'll tell you later. I walked in one of the gatherings of a certain sect, and I was just trying to learn what they have knowledge about what they are saying. And everybody was
a form of a congregation, or
it was a congregation. It was actually, I was on also with my congregation at that time, visiting, spending a few days in one of those resorts where they all religious gathering go there for a few days to listen to teachings and studying of the books. And while we are leaving the same day, another group of different congregation, different religion, not different religion, different sect arrived. And because I'm curious, I walked inside and see what they're doing. I saw some strange kind of prayers and rituals that I am not used to it, or at that time I was young actually. But I found out that I'm the only one who's not doing like that. So what happened is the person who was trying to tell the people what to do and how to kneel and bend and cry and scream and to ask for God's forgiveness in a very dramatic way, I was surprised among them. So he sent somebody of the guys, the assistants, and said, get this person out. So he came to me, you don't belong here, you get out. So I walked out and more surprised, not because they walked me out. I'm okay, because I was not really belonging to this group. But I was surprised because one person in this crowd was following what he was ordered to do blindly, without thinking. like hurt. So I felt this hurt. And maybe these are one of the things that made me think later on why we follow blindly any idea that is given to us without thinking, without analyzing, without observing, without coming to a conclusion and discuss it with those people. But what I found, Muhammad, is that those people like you and me and others that we know both together who have the ability to analyze and think and discuss and argue are not welcomed among these mass crowds of ignorant people.
And thank you very much for sharing this example here, because as you were saying, like, I wouldn't say like it just came to me, but it's actually an eternal question. Where is the core of the problem here? Is it how knowledgeable, how eloquent, how articulate, how emotional the leader is? Is this the cause of the halo that's created around him? Or is it how vulnerable and ignorant and gullible or naive are the masses? Or is it both?
It's both. David, it's because you cannot find such a crowd unless you have ignorance in them. And you cannot find such a leader unless he has the knowledge more knowledge than them. Same theory that the con artist only needs a greedy person to make his work done. So it's the same thing here. So but this started so long time ago. If you go back in the history of mankind, and do you remember the story of the magician of the tribe that was wearing scary masks and he's doing things? Why this guy was followed by the others and they go and kneel in front of him and give him food and treat him differently? Because he was more knowledgeable about one thing, which is the medicine from the herbs, the natural medicine. So he can heal some diseases or wounds by nature. He got this knowledge maybe from his father. It's inherited. And then it's inherited and it's kept in the family. So everybody else think this family are magicians because they can do things they cannot do. The same concept stayed with us and when humans started to have civilized way of living in villages and towns like ancient Egypt, for instance. Only the priests who are very close to the king at that time were able to hypnotize people because they are more knowledgeable. Even they had their own language, the language that's spoken only by the leaders of the regime, the priests of the temples, and the leaders of the army. The majority of the people, the normal people, did not speak this language. So they look at those highly as if they are knowledgeable, and also they are descended from the gods, because gods gave knowledge to those to lead us, so we have to obey them. So, as you said earlier, it is mix of both. You need someone with strong knowledge that the crowd does not have, and you need a majority of primitive, simple people, shallow-minded. I wouldn't say stupid because people are not stupid, it's just people didn't have enough share of education or knowledge. And it's sometimes by choice. Sometimes people are not willing to learn by choice. And those are the majority, which allow with their behavior and attitude, the others, the intellectual, knowledgeable people to lead them.
It's again the allegory of the cave by Plato.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. That's how we started together with this.
Exactly.
Yes. It's the cave. Yes. We are always going back to the cave again. Yes.
Exactly. And the next point, which is actually, I think it's a sub point from, it's very much related again. It says that, okay, it's not only that you're hypnotized when you are part of the group and mesmerized, but again, in the group, realities and illusions mix together. So you no longer know what is true and what is not true, what is a reality, what is an illusion. Do you agree to this? And then do you see it as a positive or a negative effect?
I don't only agree with it. I can tell you what happened to me. Now, that's the story that fits in here very well because it's a first-hand experience. I'll tell you, in 1986 or 85 it was, I can't remember. At that time, there was news spread in Cairo, in Egypt, that there is an apparition of Virgin Mary in a church in Shobra. It's a district in Cairo, a very crowded district. And this church was a very poor church, actually. So, and people hardly go there and to gather there in the streets, try to watch this apparition of Virgin Mary at night, especially because they can't see it during the day because of the sun. So I was invited by some colleagues. At that time, I was still in university, and to go and join them and to have the pleasure and the blessing of watching the apparition. We went to this place, and it was a building, and we went to the roof of the building where we have a very good view to the church. And I was there. It was dark at night. And every now and then, people start to, one person scream and says, "Oh, I can see, I can see." So everybody around me says, "Yes, yes, I can see." But in reality, there was nothing. And I'm sorry to say that it was very much delusional thing to everybody. I'm not saying that because I don't believe or believe. It's not about belief or disbelief. It's about what happens when only one person is seeing, claims that he's seeing in this crowd. The rest will say, yes, yes. First, because they are delusioned by the idea. Second, because they don't want to stand out of the crowd. So I had the ability at that time to tell them, I don't see. So they accused me that I am a sinner, or maybe I am not a believer, or whatever, because I couldn't see. So
it would be a blasphemer or a heretic, yeah. Like,
yes. How come you cannot see? Everybody's seeing. Then I asked someone next to me, "Are you really seeing anything?" He said, "No, that's like a light." I said, "Yes, that was a camera flash." He said, "Yes, it was like a flash." So did you see anything really? When I started to confront him face to face, he said, "No, I didn't see anything." So I turned to another guy, asked the same question, one-on-one. He said, "No." Then I realized. Then I remembered Le Bon right away. So, of course, I remembered him. Basically, I had no deep knowledge about him, but I know their theory. So I said, wow, that's a real manifestation of the theory. That's a living experience.
Yeah.
And some people went home convinced 100% that they have seen Virgin Mary in the apparition. But those who just started to think a little bit out of the crowd, they found out that no, she was just affected by the masses when they scream and shout, "Yes, this is." So they follow.
Absolutely.
They follow. So if we go to the delusional and the mix of delusion and reality, it is very, very obvious in crowds. Very obvious. Not only on religious basis, but in many other things.
And if it's a positive or negative thing, like does this how does this affect the morale?
Because it could be dangerous, it could be useful as well. So I would
can it inspire or at the same time demoralize? Can it do both?
Well, it is good for inspiring people to do something good. I can use it, for example, for a revolution against the tyrant. You can give this kind of charge, inspire people to go against the tyrant, and they will follow, and they believe that they can turn him out of his power, and then that's a good cause. But it's more dangerous if you use it to sabotage a place, peaceful people, go and kill innocent people in villages, like what ISIL is doing, for instance. ISIL fighters, they do and kill and do genocide because they are delusioned by the message given to them by the more influential leader who can eloquently tell them the rewards they are getting if they do so and so. And they are the most rightful people on earth. So that's the very dangerous part of it.
And which really brings us to the last, but I would say never least, actually, point here. Because I think it's sort of the pinnacle of it all. He says that if you, the penalty of not joining a group is that you'll always be seeing as blasphemous and abominous, like everything you do would be seen as blasphemy, abomination, heresy, because groups, according to Gustave Le Bon, they give you a lot of social, psychological, economic, and spiritual support. And they are your support group, really. But if you are not a member, you'll always be subject to bullying and to stigmas and so on. To what extent do you agree with him? And is this only a negative effect of creating groups, or is there a positive part of that too?
Well, actually, this is the most negative part of the whole theory, because by giving this sense of rejection to someone who is not going to join the group or become part of it, it is very painful to the human being. So in other words, and especially also if we focus on as we mentioned earlier, the normal people, the majority of the normal people, not the intelligentsia or not the people who have very deep studies in the human mind as well. Because yes, a person like a philosopher or thinker or writer wouldn't be affected by the group. On the contrary, he would like to stand out of the group because he feels she or he are different. But for a normal person, he feels that he is weak if he is not among the group. So it gives him strength, gives him self-confidence. And also, if he leaves, he is afraid now to leave. Once he enters, if you leave, you'll be an outsider. And they always say, the person who is not with us, then he's against us. Mm-hmm. So that's what he feels. Look at also the chicken when they hatch, small chicken when they hatch. They get together and come close. And there's a famous story about it that made for children movie. There was about 10 chicken, 9 of one color, and the 10th is a different color. And it is used to tell that the other 9 stayed away from this one because his color is different. That story that we learned it when we were kids. He used to tell us.
Like there's the story of the ugly duckling that became a swan.
The ugly duckling or the dark duck of the.
That became a swan later on.
I would say, yes, exactly. I would say that I would use the term the red duck among the white ducks. So it's different. And, it is obvious in the children's stories, in the folkloric stories, and in our human proverbs. Someone who's out of the group is different, cannot be treated the same, and is neglected and also abused or maybe bullied. You can have everything against him from being just rejected to the extent of killing him. In some societies long time ago, they would kill the outsider who does not want to become part of us. Even in religion, the same thing. If some friends will call someone, I heard the story by the way as well, this is a real story. They used to call their friend to go with them to prayers every week. And the guy kept refusing. And then they said, okay, we will not pray with you again. You're not part of us. But that tells me one thing, by the way. That tells me also the mass or the crowd of people who wants everybody to be like them, they in reality are not confident enough with what they belong to. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because they want everyone to be like them. So if you go back to the first example of the drug dealers or the drug addicts, they want everybody to be like them, so not to be criticized or not to stand out of the crowd, the good crowd. They want to go to the bad crowd. Now, the good crowd is playing the same game. Mm-hmm. They want everybody to be like them, those who pray every week, because they don't want to feel that somebody's not praying, so they start to question themselves. Oh, mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. There must be something wrong here. Yeah. And now the leaders of the religion, they don't want this person to disturb the crowd by being out of the crowd. So the message will be, oh, this guy, as you said, is blasphemer, he's whatever, kick him out. We don't want to see him in our crowd again. The same thing happened to me in this different congregation that I, by coincidence, I went inside to see what they are doing. He kicked me out because I'm different. So again, sometimes it is a good thing to be different, but unfortunately, the weaker ones, they get bullied, abused, and kicked and thrown out of the crowd.
Absolutely. Matt, thank you very much for being with us tonight. As usual, it's one of the very big topics and one of the most crucial topics, and makes you really, it's something that people really need to think much deeper about, and it needs a lot of insight and a lot of pondering, really. So thank you very much for being with us one more time.
I thank you so much, Mohammed, and I believe this topic is amazing because it is more of everyday life theories, not theories, even practice, and it is very, very sticking to the human behavior.
Absolutely.
Because, as you said, Lubon was also a psychiatrist, and he studied sociology, professor of sociology. So all these things actually enabled him to give us this treasure of how to analyze the mind of the crowd, or the mob thinking, as
Absolutely.
we call it sometimes.
Absolutely. Thanks one more time.
Thank you, Mohammed.
And dear viewers, if we were to recap here, something that really looks like an enigma and a real anomaly here is that, I don't think any one of us is ready to wear the same shirt every day or eat the same dish. Even if it's your favorite dish, you're not ready to have the same dish for 3 meals, 24/7, during the whole year. You don't want to listen to the same piece of music, even if it's your favorite. Watch the same movie, etc. So we always love change. We always love differences, except when it comes to us, to you other humans. We would like other humans to be just, copies, replicas of us, and no more and no less, which is, I don't know, like it's a big riddle for me, really. I can't really find a solution for that. But, humans, like the way they were created by, if you believe in a creator or Mother Nature, regardless, the way they were created were created with individual minds. We don't have group minds. We don't have family minds. We don't have, sibling minds. We just have individual minds. So definitely there is some kind of purpose behind that, to have individual minds. So, we have different even fingerprints, eye prints, ear prints. So why is that? The nature of things is to be different. The nature of things is to be individual. The nature of things is to appreciate. That's why we love the rainbow, different colors, the 7 different colors of the rainbow. Together, that's what makes them beautiful. And nobody likes a monochromatic or a monotonous life. Nobody likes one tone or one color. If your favorite color is blue, I don't think you'd love to see a blue tree or a blue sun. I don't think so. And nobody would like to see a green river. Definitely, we need to break these bonds and shackles that we tend to enforce on ourselves, and just go back to our nature of being free to think and to believe. Dear viewers, until we meet again, have a very pleasant time. Thanks for watching.